How everybody doing tonight? This is zEnergy coming to you live, and I got special guests in the house, Zero, and we're gonna talk about the left hand, the right hand path, and what is the difference, and the history and how it came about. The mic still distorted. Yeah, please do, man. Go ahead.
Um, so I mean, basically, the right hand and the left hand path have always existed. Um, a lot of the knowledge that we have today is just a very distorted version of what has always been. The problem with what's going on today is the fact that there is division between the two when there shouldn't be. Um, Everything is all about balance. And when you give more importance to one over the other, then it causes problems.
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and
I can't hear you.
like you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I get that question a lot, and like some of the, like people they come to me
I
like,
still
how can
can't
I?
hear you.
Oh, okay. Let me see. How about now? You can hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me? It's still distorting. Let me see. It's probably coming from the other one. All right. What about now? You can hear me now? Oh man.
Hold on.
I think it's on your end. Your end.
There we go. There's some kind of play button that was on there. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Now I
Yeah,
can hear
man.
you.
I was saying I get a lot of questions about, the left hand and right hand. And the most common question is how, they come up to me and say how one can work with itself and what's the first step they got to do, achieve that knowledge.
I say that when you first start out, the best thing is to just isolate and get to know yourself. One of the biggest things is, the rules in magic is to know thyself. Um, because when you start to analyze who you really are, you also begin to understand how everything influences you without. We're influenced by so much, like our contemporaries, we're influenced by the media, everything is bombarding us. So, um, you have to understand who you are and then understand when you're being influenced. And that's the best place to start. When I first started, I didn't even consider left hand or right hand path. Still there? Um, yeah, I didn't really consider whether I was okay. Um, when I first started, I didn't consider left hand or right hand path. I just did a lot of meditation, and I was trying to figure out what I would keep from my previous lifestyle over what I would change. And when I did that, I started to figure out who I wanted to be, from a moral standpoint, um, and kind of start to form my magical goals, my spiritual goals, and then I went from there.
Gotcha.
So
What, the biggest question is, what is the effects, the benefits, from, like, coming one and learning this knowledge?
The effect. Uh, Man, it's a very profound. You change within when you practice magic for the right reasons, and
Hmm.
that's spiritual growth.
Yes.
Whether you go left hand path or right hand path, I believe like if you do it correctly, it all leads to the same thing. You have a mindset that embraces unity, and it's not through like the corrupted unity that you have in society with the transhumanism and being connected through the web or the meta and things like that. It's um, you see the connection between everything and everyone, and you become more empathetic. But at the same time, I feel like you become more closed off to a lot of the energies that people leave themselves open to, that affect people negatively.
Correct.
Let me see if I can switch angles because nobody can see my face. I don't know.
Yeah, I had to go get one of these computer little lights. If like you standing right here and they like beam off the mod, it's so real clean, kind of crisp.
Yeah, my face is always either halfway cast in shadow. Let's see.
Yeah.
All
With
right.
that, with the spiritual growth, what is the like as far as like getting the body right,
Mhm.
as far as like the detox and the cleansing, like the steps like one got to take before they can harness this energy.
Well, they say that the body is a temple,
Yeah.
and like when you take care of your body and your mind are attached. So when you start taking care of your mind, it improves your body, and vice versa. So what you want to do is you want to be sure to get regular exercise, eat correctly. I don't recommend a certain diet because everybody is different. Like,
As far what the like the meat situation, is that kind of like in the menu?
it's okay to eat meat as far as I'm concerned, but like you will change.
Yeah.
Your taste, your appetite will change. It's like you may go from eating meat, but then you'll start craving more light foods, such as like fruits, vegetables, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like that's a natural process. Like something about it will trigger your urge to drink more water instead of things like soda or liquor or things that really aren't good for your kidneys or your body.
Yeah.
But you have to be sure to take care of your body because even though a lot of magic is mental, it's still stressful on the body. You go through a lot of changes. If you do invocations, that can also be stressful on the body.
Yeah.
And some rituals or things that you will do will just require a lot of energy. Um, so you have to make sure to keep that energy up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have any set goals, like far as like what you're trying to pursue out of the far as like being a spiritualist, and the benefits of your achievement? Maybe it's a master or some type of ascension.
Um, my goals changed as I progressed. I think that when I first began, I was looking for mundane things, but it was a necessary journey for me because when you start with the small things, it makes you realize your power. However, you don't want to stay there. A lot of people want to practice magic, specifically for money or power or control over the opposite sex, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not what it's about. You
Yeah.
know, if you're on that mindset, it's like it makes no sense to have a higher practice in order to keep getting lower things, mundane things.
Yeah.
Um, so after I proved that I could manifest, then it was about like higher knowledge, like understanding how certain things in the universe are formed, or how like certain spirits perceive the birth of our universe. There was a lot of explaining of quantum physics going on. I really do think that quantum physics is the science of the gods. Um, um, and now I feel like my goal is to be able to help people to understand that there is a choice, um,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to spirituality, that be they drawn to the darkness or the light, there is a reason for that. And it's not about good or evil. Um, and also, my current goal is studying the Christ. Um, a lot of people would not expect it, but I have a very close relationship with Lilith, and like it's gotten to the point where I'm starting to learn from source instead of books. Um, and so when I was speaking with Lilith, I was kind of at that point where I didn't know where to go because I've done so much.
Yeah.
And when I asked her um, what I should do next, she said to study the Christ.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah. Um, but not just from like a mainstream viewpoint, because it's very distorted.
Yes,
Uh,
washed in. Yeah.
yeah, so she wanted me to like really, really study like the cult, the esoteric teachings, the hidden, like go for the hidden meanings, and really break things down. Like she gave me kind of like this homework, these essay questions. She was asking about Mary. She was like, well, when you study, think about what Mary represents. Is there a meaning in the name? Is there a reason why there are two significant Marys in Jesus' life? Yeshua, however you want to refer to, I would say the archetype that came from the Christ-like individuals that existed throughout history.
Yeah.
Okay, so because
Oh,
like there's so much controversy over whether Jesus
it's
existed or
fictional.
not.
Yeah, it's a
So
fictional character, or is he a character, or is it
yeah,
based off some other character or some deity?
right,
Yeah, a
right,
lot of people. Hmm.
yeah. So if you do studying, there are actually like a lot of Christ-like individuals um, throughout history, and I don't think that those who control the narrative really want people to understand that.
Yeah,
Um, Jesus was not special in the sense that we can all activate that Christ consciousness within us.
yeah, the mitochondria. Definitely.
So
Yeah.
um, it just seems like the universe is really pushing me towards balance.
Balance.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and that's really what it is. Uh, the Christ consciousness is about unity. It's about embracing both the feminine and the masculine in a healthy way. Um, and learning to utilize both your logic as well as your intuition.
Gotcha. Now, do you have to have like a sacred place for this? I mean, other than like a lot of people, if you single, a lot of people tend to use their house or they use outdoors or nature or some kind of sacred area that you have. Did you start with like an altar first, or you know?
I practiced a lot of things just to see what worked. I started off with just meditation.
Yeah.
Uh, I was meditating in a dark closet because that was the only place where I could concentrate. Then, I got into altar work, but it's kind of like in hermetics, right? What most people would consider God is considered the all. Like everything consists of the all. So it's kind of like you don't need to be anywhere special in order to connect to source because it's everywhere. Really, it's all about your mind. Can you focus on this? Do you have a strong enough intent? Do you have a strong enough will in order to focus on your goals and what you want and what you need and getting those things?
Mm.
Because it like at this point in the game for me, I don't need the ritualistic stuff.
Mm.
I can basically, if I, have a previous connection established with a certain spirit, I can call to them. There are certain spirits that I can call to that I haven't connected with previously. Um, but
Is it something to do with your astrology as part of your connecting with different spirits that's in your that element of that month?
some people say that spirits are a part of us. Um, like you have the adage that says, "As within, so without."
Yeah.
And to a degree, I feel like we do have a connection with them, but they are also separate. Like they have their own. I've had them tell me like they have their own lives. They're outside of us, but they do have certain connections that are um, established when we start looking for them. Um, so they're not like my feeling is that the spirits that get in contact with you are in some way, some form, fashion, family.
Mm.
Because it's like if you had no stake, no investment in something, why would you take the time to nurture it and help it grow through knowledge or however your approach is?
Mm. Was it a calling for you, or was it a urge where you just saw life differently, like most people do?
I think it was I think it was a combination. It was a
Combination.
combination
Yeah,
of
that was for me too.
what my ancestors did, a combination of me analyzing my environment, and just being aware of the fact that the spiritual patterns that I had starting out, um, involving Christianity, uh, weren't working for me. There was always a deep and profound just unhappiness
Mm.
with doing things the way that I was, raised up. Um, and so it was just kind of like, I have to find something different. I have to find something different. And it was just something that was so strong that it didn't matter if people saw me as a heretic or somebody who was um, walking away from what I was originally taught. I just had to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. What are some of the deities and spirits that you currently work with?
um, the main one, Lilith.
Hmm.
Lilith is a big part in my spiritual evolution. Um, she also is extremely connected to me. Um, Samael was one that I worked with that came into my life and had a major effect for me. So you have like the feminine and the masculine there that
Hmm.
came. I work with Hecate. Hecate is kind of like an adopted mother for me. She's more like working in the background though, uh, because when the funny thing about Hecate, and this is how you know a true God does not search for worship. Um, After working with Hecate for so long, she basically told me, she was like, why do you keep coming to me for answers? Like, you have everything within you. Like, go do the work. And it was like kicking me out to go play. Um,
Yeah.
and then I did recently come to her and I asked her, I said, I'm not looking for specific direction, but I asked her and I said, when I come upon a difficult decision, how do I gauge whether I'm doing the right thing? And she told me to do what you feel makes the world beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know. I know that goes a long way deep within you. I know you came a long ways. How many years you spent developing your skills and your abilities?
Um, I would say that I've always had, some of these skills, but it was suppressed.
Yeah.
So I didn't start focusing on, like harnessing and really getting to know my true self until I was in my 20s. So I've been practicing. I tell people I've been practicing for it's almost 18 years now. 18 years.
Man.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's you don't like you don't think about how deep you're into it. Like you just do it and it becomes a lifestyle. And then somebody asks you down the road, they're like, "Oh yeah, how long?" And you're like, "Oh man, now I got to do calculations because I got to think about what I've been doing." um, yeah. So I mean, it doesn't feel like 18 years, but it really is. I mean,
Man. So how did you first know that you had this ability, or did a spirit, any information, some numbers, you know what I mean? Like sometimes people get numbers,
mhm.
and the other one is different, like it could be a dream, or a vision.
um, when it came to my spiritual evolution towards the beginning, I started off with meditation, and honestly, I was learning to meditate in order to get rid of stress. I was working a very stressful job, um, and it was like more was happening to me during this meditation. Um,
Hmm.
and then I'm the type of person when I find something out that I'm interested in, I just research the hell out of it.
That's
And
what I was doing. Yeah.
it took me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so it was like when I studied meditation, I found out that it was one of the steps that could lead to astral travel. And I was like, huh. It's like, well, I've got time on my hands. Like everything else is boring. Let me try to astral travel. And that that got me into a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I think like everything led to a new step because it was kind of when I got into astral travel. The thing about when you awaken to your abilities, um, it's like setting off a flare. Everything knows that you're awakening. Everything knows that you have power, and everything is going to come to you, good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the first thing that happened to me felt like an attack. Um,
Yeah.
like spiritual parasites started coming to me. And so even that was necessary for my spiritual growth because instead of being scared away, me like a dummy, I'm like, oh, well, even though this doesn't feel good, it's still different from regular life. And I kept doing it. And my mindset is instead of running from it, get to understand it so I can protect myself and keep doing it.
I got a question about that. I had some experience like about I'm gonna say about 15 years back when I was like young, I was like 9 years old.
Mm,
I didn't know nothing about the spirit realm. I didn't know nothing about UFOs, none of that. But I had visits from like several different spirits.
hmm.
Uh, one I could confirm was a dragon. The
Nice.
second one I used to get like uh, astral out of my sleep, and I go parallel off, and I used to fight it so much that if you were to walk in the room, I'd be in the sleep, and I'd be in there just be moving like, you know what I mean? My mom couldn't ever understand it. She's like, "Is you going crazy?" You know, she'd be like, I be trying to figure my own problems out, and I never used to like talking about it. But if you do talk about it, everybody think you all, crazy or schizo and stuff like that. But I always kind of like try to deal with it within, and I battle it out while I'm going to school and junior high and stuff. And I used to get tortured, like I mean tortured. I done been
Right.
through like some crazy stuff, man. You know what I mean? But I can only go to like somebody that can actually look within and try to help me understand. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of took the time out and start reading books and try to develop how to protect myself in case something, were to like, spiritual attacks or whatever. You know what I mean? I
Right.
didn't know, but I had visits, man. You name it, man. And I believe I was a visit by Anubis as well on that last confrontation that I had when I was like 16.
Hmm.
I was in like a light sleep. I could feel like it was a battle, or like like a battle, like in a different astral realm. My body was like there, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move. So I just said, something told me, say, call on your elders, call on your ancestors. When I did that, I just heard a dog growl. You feel me? It was like a growl that I had never heard in my life. Like, like he was checking, like the checking my like aura and see if I'm, and just like after that, I never had no problem. To this day, I'm still trying to understand it.
Well, that's kind of funny because in my case, whenever something negative would come, something positive would come to chase it away. Like my
Yeah,
first
yeah,
encounter was a spiritual vampire, and on the astral realm, it appeared like a ball of light, red light,
yeah.
that would suck the energy from me. And it wouldn't let me come out of the astral until it was done with me.
Mm-hmm.
This red light was chased away by a blue light, and then the blue light stopped and hovered over me and gave me energy. Like I was on 1,000 after meeting this blue light, and then it just went away.
Yeah.
Then it was like certain elements came into my life to help me progress. Like I was still getting visits from different things when I would go into meditation. And um, So I needed to know how to protect myself because I wasn't going to stop meditating.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, definitely.
I had to search because, like, at the time, I was living in Texas, and when you're kind of around the South or the Midwest, they're big on Christianity. And like
Pushing.
if you're in the South, you're in the Bible Belt. So
Yeah, they would defend it.
yeah, so I had to, thank goodness, like I had the internet at that time. Um, but I ran into this. I was in chat rooms trying to ask for help,
Hmm.
and I ran into this one person who claimed to be a Wiccan, and so they said, well, if you need help, you need to find a spirit that you vibe with. And so when I asked how to do that, they said, well, research the different deities and then find one that has qualities that you either have or you want. So um, I ended up, long story short, I ended up working with Thoth.
Wow.
Um, and it was because he was the god of wisdom. When
Knowledge.
I read the lore, like he was never, there was never anything negative said about him. You know, he was always the one that could see both sides of an argument, and people seemed to like respect what he had to say.
Hmm.
And my first thing was, instead of wanting the mundane things that people usually want when they first start magic, I said I wanted wisdom. I was still in a kind of Christian mindset.
Hmm.
So I said, you know what? I want to be wise like Solomon.
Man, uh, man, I just, man, that's a blessing just to have thoughts in your path that even, just to come and tell you that, But
Yeah.
yeah, as far as like what is like some of the bad uh energy that you intake, like as far as like like you were saying about the meditation, does that attract some of the negative to like kind of like, oh, you open up your energy and they feel like they want to attack you to keep you from that energy,
Um,
the
I think
parasite.
it's really what's going on within you, your mindset, your thoughts. When you meditate, sometimes I would accidentally meditate on like the wrong thing and then be hyper
Mm-hmm.
focused on like this negative thought, and it would just get bigger and bigger. And then I'd have to like stop meditating because I'm like, no, that's not what I want to focus on. Um, I believe that it's also a lot of negative things come to you because a lot of people don't work on their shadow.
Shadow work.
And even shadow work can be positive, but it's going to feel negative.
Mm.
And so it's all about how you perceive things. Like there may be things that I don't like that happened to me, but in hindsight I can say, okay, that was really a positive experience.
Yeah, I had to kind of swallow my pride about a lot of stuff that happened to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think everything is just it's necessary. I don't really regret anything that I went through. Um, it's a purification process. So in a way, it's all positive. It's all about how you look at it. If you study hermetics, it talks about how you can transmute anything that's on the same spectrum. Like good and bad, are like on the opposite ends of the same spectrum. And so it's kind of like you can take a situation, right? And you can slide it from the bad side of the spectrum to the good side. But it's all about how you perceive it. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? That's how you transmute things. It's like, okay, do I look for the silver lining in this cloud or do I look specifically at the rain? You know,
So how important grounding is when you start to get deep into your works and like the meditation and stuff like that.
grounding is very, very important. Sometimes when you get deep into the spiritual things, like your head's constantly in the clouds. Like it's hard to you start to feel detached, and it's hard to come back to what people call reality, and reconnect with the people around you. So you have to get into the practice of grounding yourself because, for me it's important because as a teacher, like I have to be able to connect with people who haven't gotten to the state of enlightenment or the spiritual heights that they're looking to achieve. Um, so I do have to have like kind of like one foot in this reality and one foot in the other realities, and that's a very hard balance, because it's kind of like when you're off in the ether somewhere, like it's a beautiful thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's hard to come back.
Hmm.
Um, it 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 makes more sense than this reality, so to speak. And so, like coming back, it's weird because like when you practice, when you go through spiritual evolution,
Hmm.
it's basically a deconstruction of self. It's a breaking down of the ego, and it's kind of like understanding your place in the universe. And when you kind of get to that point, it's hard reconstructing your ego and coming back to this condensed form of living.
Fake, fake living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's even intense to the point where it's like you look around and you're like, none of this makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Like I'm not processing this, and it takes a while to like reform those rules in your head and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's what human life is. All right, resuming.
Yeah. I was like, it took me like 4 years to actually to develop and learn the difference. And now I'm on the path of trying to get uh that spiritual and that awakening where I can develop my skills and get and bring forth the growth and kill the ego so I can learn my lessons to achieve my ultimate goal. That's the wisdom and knowledge as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
do you do any readings as far as like consultations and stuff for people?
I do. Um, on occasion, do consultations. I I'm of two minds about that. It's like I want to help people,
Yeah, but you want
but
to help.
the way people go for help is like whenever they find somebody with an original thought, they
Mm-hmm.
have a tendency to latch onto those people and then start asking questions of them and relying upon them as a source.
Mm.
Now, while it's good to look at some people as an example, like
Mm-hmm.
they're not the end all be all.
Mm.
Like I'm trying to get people to think for themselves, to do research for themselves. Like there are certain things that people do. They come to me, and the answers that they can get are a simple Google search away. You know what I'm saying? Like not everything on the internet is BS. You know what I'm saying? you
Yeah.
know, um, and so I feel like sometimes I want to shy away from consultations and stuff like that
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's detrimental to
So you be
people.
trying to like work with yourself and try to get yourself before.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's the best way of just being an example,
Mm-hmm.
that people see,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because there's too much herd and sheep mentality. Like too many people, even though they want to like better themselves and stuff like that, they're just too eager to follow. And
Mm-hmm.
my whole thing is not about building a following. It's about teaching you to benefit yourself, to embrace your uniqueness, but at the same time, while understanding yourself as a separate person, also understanding the connection that you have to other people, um, and the world in general. Like we're connected to plants, we're connected to the stones, we're connected to the earth because she's
Mm-hmm.
alive. We're connected to the whole solar system. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just feels like people get distracted from that, and they start hearing stuff that they like to hear, and they latch onto that, but they don't hear they don't hear the more important things. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like benefit yourself, think for yourself. If
Research.
you
It's
Yeah,
a lot of research into it because it took me almost 3 years to actually learn the spiritual side. It's just so much knowledge. The knowledge is unlimited. The
right,
knowledge is it's like quantum. It's on a quantum level, and it's knowledge is everlasting. You know what I mean? But it goes a long ways because even when we die, we still got to learn more in the next following life.
right. Well, not only that, but like you can't follow one person because nobody is infallible. Like I'm
Yeah,
not perfect. I
yeah.
make mistakes. I'm on my own journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like so there are things I have to learn, and it's like you can take my example because
Mm-hmm.
my mistakes will help you not to repeat those mistakes. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? I may have an epiphany, but then that idea has to be built upon, and then sometimes it needs to be thrown away for something better. You know what I'm saying? So to rely on one source is really limiting yourself and not doing your own research and finding something that resonates with you. It's a hindrance.
yeah, definitely, man. How do like the astrology and the alignment of your elements is that all connected within you?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are affected by all kinds of space rays. We're made of space dust. um,
Go ahead.
but I feel like our astrological signs are a very good indication of how we approach things spiritually. Like for example, I'm a Gemini. Okay, so
Oh
you
man,
know,
you know what? I'm a Gemini too.
oh damn. Okay, all right.
Hey, that's why I can vibe with you, man.
But and it's like that's why like I seek that balance. That's why
Yeah,
I seek both sides. The darkness, the light,
yeah,
or I gravitate
yeah.
towards
Left and right.
uh yeah, and I gravitate towards the neutral energies, the neutral deities. So like looking back, you're like, damn, that's a real Gemini thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gemini, and the
um,
thing about Gemini's, we got the communication, and we like the balance. So we got the yin and the yang, and the dark and the light. So it's really balanced within us. It's
yeah,
always there.
and I also feel like one of the best things is that as a Gemini, if somebody is leaning towards one side, like a majority is leaning to one side,
Yeah.
you're always like, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate and be on the other side, whether or not I agree with what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like that gives you a lot more perspective than a lot more than other people, do. So like Geminis are, and of course I'm stereotyping. Everybody's different,
Yeah.
but like they're kind of like, to me, they're like big picture kind of people. They're like, well, okay, I see this piece and it can be right, but like, how does it fit in with everything else? Like, we need to see the big picture
Yeah.
before we like really choose a side. And then we're
Mhm.
like, when we see that big picture, we're like, I'm not choosing any side.
Have you ever
Like,
worked with some of the air elements being a Gemini? Because I know there's air element is in our chart.
right. I've worked with so many elements, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's definitely air elements around. Because I've been through so many uh initiations into soul alchemy, and you have to work with all the elements, be
Definitely.
they quote unquote demonic or angelic or just kind of like neutral.
Yeah. I've been definitely working with some of the angelics, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron. It's a whole bunch of them. I call them for like different reasons. Um, Mainly for healing and show me my spiritual path and help me develop as I go. You
Hmm.
know, you always got to say thank you and gratitude.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I had to work with the quote unquote demonic entities first before working with angels,
Yeah.
because I tell people that working with the demons broke me apart so that I could be rebuilt better. And so when you work with the darkness, like
Mm-hmm.
the chaotic elements, they
Chaotic.
break you apart,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically turn you into clay because they're like, okay, you solidified in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like setting a broken bone. Like sometimes you have to re-break it in order for it to heal straight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then working with the angelic beings was it's putting your life back into order. It's kind of like saying, okay, now that I've come to the conclusion that I need to structure reality according to the way I see fit,
Mm-hmm.
um, help me with this.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't even know that they work with each other.
They're in concert all the time. Like there
Yeah.
is, they think that there's this big war, there's evil versus good, and it's like, no, there is no war. The
Mm-hmm.
war is really within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Within the mind. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Have you
Um,
go ahead.
no, no, no. That
I
was
was saying about the Akashic records. Have you ever had any far as like that astral trip to the Akashic to like develop different downloads from there?
um when it comes to the Akashic records, I've never been there like as a place, an astral place. Um, Everything when it comes to downloads, it just kind of comes. I think it comes when it wants to. Um, the universe has told me to develop my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like when you start to develop that intuition, certain things just come to you at certain times. Like
Mm-hmm.
you'll have this thought and you'll hyper focus on the thought, or you'll have this feeling and be like, I just know. Um, so I haven't made an actual conscious attempt to go to the Akashic records.
Mm.
Um, Now, one thing there is something called a light matrix. And so like light holds a lot of information. whether people know it or not. I mean, like it should be obvious because I mean, we basically have what is it, like ether cables that work off of light. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Um, and when you learn to tap into that light, you learn to get the information that you need. Uh, Not only that, but like there's a lot of information that's locked within our DNA. You know,
Mm.
when we start delving into that, like the Akashic records, that's all in here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
the built-in library.
yeah,
Yeah, built inside the whole your mind.
yeah, and it's like so many times you're like, how do I know this? But you just know, and it
Yeah.
works, and it makes sense. Um, and I really think that when it comes to the Akashic records, like people hyper focus on these different places and going to these different places when all you have to do is go inside.
Within. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as far as like having all the ability and learning within. Um, I know it's gonna be like it's not gonna be an easy path, but you really have to have a strong mind and you really have to get your heart right, and you gotta get your chakras aligned right, and filter your body, and take one day at a time. So a lot of people go in a rush, but you hit that brick wall faster as you turn your rate back around.
Well, to quote Samael, it's not a race.
Mm-mm.
We're not in competition with anybody. You know, sometimes you need to stop and smell the roses in order to appreciate what you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to pace yourself because if you learn too much too fast, you do risk insanity.
Oh
You
Lord.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like there have been times when some stuff would be unlocked, some information would be given to me, and it would just be so mind blowing and so profound
Mm-hmm.
that I can't process it. Like the spirits would have to come and reset me and be like, all right, we're gonna put this in his subconscious and it's gonna come back to the surface when he's ready for it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just kind of like, damn, there have been certain things that I've learned where it's just so world changing that like you want to curl up in a ball and just stay there and
Yeah.
sit there for like weeks on end.
That remind me of that Ace Ventura movie where he was in the shower. Remember the
No,
shower scene?
what movie?
Ace Ventura.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Remember he was in the shower and he was like
yeah,
disgusted with the world and stuff like.
yeah, yeah. Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get like that. You get like there's times when it's like, well, why don't people see what I see? Why are people so you have these negative thoughts where you're like, why are people so stupid? But then,
I know one. It's really the block from the higher the higher elites going. Trying to stop the evolution of us developing these skills so we can go on to the next plane. But it's like they want to use our energy. They in love with our energy so much, or is it because they need it to live, or is it they need it because they some kind of benefits of it?
uh man,
It goes a long way.
I can't understand the motivations of people who would do such disgusting things to other human beings.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like I can say, I've been on the dark side to a point. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes having control, having that power is addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like there's other ways of getting power. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
instead of stepping on other people, if you embrace other people and have other people love you, you will
Mm.
have everything that you need.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if a person knows that you're willing to give to them, then they become willing to give to you. And so that draws to you um what what you need to have. And that gives you what you need in order to be happy.
Mm.
Um and so it's like when you constantly do magic that is negative,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, like it takes a toll on you.
Oh.
There is
Mm-hmm.
karma. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're just constantly taking and not giving back, like you're disrupting a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so the universe says, okay, this person's been taking and taking and taking. Now
They
it's
gotta
time
give
for
it
us
back.
to take, and then the universe takes an excess all at one time, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, like you end up in a bad place because
Mm-hmm.
you have that karmic debt to pay.
Yeah, I spoke about that in the video. Yeah, karma's like a bank account. It's more like a bank account that builds all your negative energy from all your previous life and it's stacked up.
Mm,
And, you know, you still got to go visit that bank to go get your finance. But that finance is that debt that you got to pay back for the karma.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it's kind of like it's a whole give and take. You know, it's like um, you know, like I just try to be good to people. I try to be understanding and empathetic.
Yeah.
And when I don't
Definitely.
feel like being that, like I just remove myself.
Yeah.
You you know, as much as possible.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you on that. I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
You have to be.
it's but there are certain times when you do have to assert yourself, like when somebody attacks you. You know, then you have the right to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like whatever happens to that person happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, I feel like you know, when somebody starts stepping on your toes or coming after you, like the rules go out the window. You know, but other than that, you know, it's kind of like if nobody's coming to bother me, then I'm not trying to bother them. You know,
Yeah.
and I see like it's better to embrace unity than not in most cases.
Mm-hmm. Hey, before we go, I got two questions. One is, do you have a message that you want to send to somebody that's trying to like educate themselves and looking for growth and where help them understand the starting points?
Yeah. Always come from a place of genuineness
Mm,
and love. And
yes.
so when you come from that place where you genuinely want to learn, and you do it from a place of love,
Mm-hmm.
more times than not, you will make the right choice, even though it may not feel like it and you may feel lost. Um, for example, like when I started my spiritual path and I was working with demons and stuff like this, um, I had problems with angels.
Mm.
You know, like came they came across as like elitist and snooty and, you know, cold and stuff like that. But
What do you want?
when I got to the mindset where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to
Mhm.
love everything I come upon.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
when my
that's the universal law right there. Love.
yeah, but that's when my relationships with all the spirits just
Mm-hmm.
got better. You know, like sometimes angels do things that you're like, why did they do that? And sometimes it upsets you. But then when you go from a place of love where you're like, okay, hold up a second. Instead of like judging this being for what they did on the surface, maybe there's a reason. And then the reason comes up later and you're like, oh, okay.
Oh
And then you're
yeah.
like, it's a good thing I didn't try to pop off on this angel because like I'm the type like if you get me angry, I don't care how high up you are, how powerful you are, I will pop off on you. You know what I'm saying? So I've had to learn to kind of
Yeah,
like
seven straight. Yeah.
I've had to learn how to like turn down, you know, like where it's like, okay, hold up, back up, analyze the situation.
Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of where I believe when you approach things from a place of love, then they're more likely to help you and they're more likely to be drawn to you. Um, and you know, something that I read said that like the universe gives what you put in. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're putting in something negative, you're going to get something negative back.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with demons and angels.
Yeah.
If you see something as evil, then it's going to show you evil.
And
If
another
you,
thing, the respect goes a long way too. You can't disrespect the spirit
oh,
realm. Oh, they will, man. It's consequences.
oh yeah, definitely.
Especially, I want to get into that. I want to get into that on another show. I would
and
love it,
it's
man. I want to. I want to dissect all of it.
and they're more creative than you think when it
Yeah.
comes to punishment.
Mm-hmm. That's like a spanking. Yep. Definitely, man. Man, I love the energy, man. I love having you on the show, man. I love your energy. I love everything about you, man. I thank you for the knowledge, the wisdom, and even putting out the message out there for the young wizards out there that's trying to come up. You know.
Yeah, I feel that, you know, it's kind of an obligation to help the generation that comes after you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like,
Has to, and not only that, you putting in the positive effect. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, and you know, it's like we have to be open with this knowledge. You know, like a lot of people, they
Definitely.
get this knowledge and then they want to hold it. No,
Mm-hmm.
like in order for the knowledge, the practice to evolve, we have to share these things.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to learn how to put these things properly into practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the responsibility of the people who come before, you
Yeah,
know.
definitely. All right, man. Man, thank you, man, so much, man. You've been taking the time out, your day, all that, man. I would love to chop it up with you on a couple more episodes. Later on, whenever you got time, we can dissect, the banishment, how how to protect yourself, all the whole shebang bang.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely down. Like you have my information, so
Yeah, I got you, man. Lock me in. Definitely lock me in.
yeah, we can
Yeah,
just, you know, shoot the breeze back and forth, see when
yeah,
we're both available and then go from there.
definitely, dude. Oh man, Mike. But definitely, we got to, man. So I thank you even coming on the show at this time and all, man. You have a blessing day in your life. Keep that positive and gratitude to you and your family, man.
Blessings to you and thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you, man, so much, man. Appreciate that, man.
My
Yo,
pleasure.
all right, thank you, bro. Hey, yo, this is zEnergy, and we about to end this live real quick. Y'all stay one, and I'm gonna invite Zero back on a couple more shows, and y'all stay blessed.